Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Here we are, and shall we bring in our guest? Yes, we shall.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
There she is. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Very nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too, Rick.
Great to see you. We finally meet face to face. You know, we've been doing Twitter spaces and stuff together, so we know each other's voices, but we've never actually seen each other's faces. It's great to see you, Anastasia.
Yeah, good to finally meet you too.
Folks, I'd like to introduce you to Anastasia Battle. She's an organizer with Humanity for Peace and the Schiller Institute. Some of you may have been watching Strange Bedfellows on Saturday night, where we had Jose Vega and Kynan Thistlethwaite on the show to talk about their movement, the LaRouche movement, which is a fascinating movement. And Anastasia is also part of the Schiller Institute. So they're all working together along with a number of other groups to do a big rally in New York City this Sunday. And I should probably let you tell us what it's all about rather than me running my mouth. Go ahead, Anastasia. Tell us what it's all about.
So we're doing something which is incredibly ambitious, but also very important right now. And what's been happening over the past 9 weeks is we've started something called the International Peace Coalition, which actually both of you are very welcome to be part of. This is a private steering committee of people who actually think that we're facing nuclear war and we have to do something about it. So through that process of dialogue, which includes people from all over the world, especially from the global south, the United States, Germany, a number of other NATO countries, we decided that we were going to pull an international demonstration and activate everything that we possibly can. And I'm sure you guys are very aware of the interventions that Jose Vega, Kynan, myself, I'm actually the Obama interventionist. I'm the one
that was you.
That was me. I had the camera and I was videotaping my husband and myself at the same time. But I'm the one
awesome.
that yelled. Thank you. I'm the one
I love
that. Obama, you overthrew the legitimate Ukraine in 2014. Victoria Nuland financed the overthrow. And of course, we got dragged out. It was great. It was marvelous. And it was on national television because it was Obama.
Right. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. But what was really, so this process has brought a lot of people together saying we have to have some courage right now. So this rally is part of an international intervention where all of our groups who are peace-loving people who care about human beings, the humanity actually surviving, are now going out and finding other people like that, fighting with their own groups, right? I mean, you guys are well aware of this, that, I mean, all these peace groups, they don't even get along with each other. Exactly. They fight and they bicker over everything. Yes. It's ridiculous. Oh, I don't work with those people because they said this one thing, or they took my lover 20 years ago, or they took my whatever. So this is part of an international intervention to say, just get over it.
I never understood how peace groups who want peace seem to engage in so much war with each other. It just Doesn't make
I
any
mean,
sense.
honestly, it's impotence. It's impotence. It's people who are more committed to failure than deciding that they have to do something creative and different and work with people that they may not like for the greater good. This is what the American Revolution was, right? This is what, the best ideas that have ever come about in human history. This was people coming together above their ideologies for an important idea.
That's right. I mean, that's how we ended the Vietnam War. It took 15 years, and the protests just got larger and larger and larger. And I saw an interesting poll just yesterday saying that a third of Americans say that we should send our troops to fight in Ukraine. Stunning. 1/3. And I'm thinking, well, I guess that 1/3 should be the first to go then. Let's go sign up at the local recruitment office. I don't really see them rushing down to the recruitment office to sign up. So, are they willing to put their muscle where their mouth is and their bodies on the line? Because I'm telling you, folks, I really don't have high hopes of winning a war against Russia. If American kids go over there, they're going to die in large numbers. It could make Vietnam look like a walk in the park.
Absolutely. No, and the irony is that this war isn't even about Ukraine. It's not. Nobody actually cares about the people of Ukraine. If they did, they would have allowed the peace negotiations that have already been worked out to be accepted. But we keep sending money, we keep sending weapons. And so what this is a whole process to get not just war with Russia, but with war with China and with any nation that you see cooperating with them, especially around the BRICS, right? You're seeing nations in the world who are rising up against imperialism, who are saying enough, right? Like these African countries, Eritrea, right, was just in Russia and said, this is enough. We've had enough of this, right? These countries want to come out and actually fight for their sovereignty and their right for progress. And that's really what, this war is about. It's not about Ukraine.
No, it's about money and control of Russia's resources, I think. That's my take. And, it's an old war. It's 100-year war. I'm a historian. I read a lot of musty old history books. The United States and the West has been trying to destroy and do a regime change in Russia since at least 1917. We did this all during the Cold War, which was completely dumb. And now we're doing it again in a new Cold War. And they're not even a communist country anymore. But they've got a lot of resources, and we want those resources. We want to control that vast landscape, just as a guy named Adolf Hitler did once upon a time. That was the whole reason that Hitler wanted to invade Russia and to conquer it, was the resources, the Lebensraum,
Well, also what a lot of people don't know in the United States is that there's a whole new financial infrastructure that's been created with the BRICS, like the new development bank, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and that this is allowing developing nations to sit down at the table as equals, not saying, oh, Mr. Banker, would you please give me some money and then screw me over in a year when you blow up my currency, which is what's happened. That's what's happened to all these countries. They know it. So you have a new financial infrastructure which is in place, which respects nations. So that's a huge threat to the establishment right now, quite frankly, a bankrupt establishment.
You better believe it. And today, because I'm very excited about this rally, and I'm so glad that you guys are doing it. I hope it's a huge success. I sent out some invites to people that I know are speaking at this rally tomorrow, because you've got an all-star lineup. Thought we might get a couple of celebrities to drop by tonight and do a cameo. And one of them just showed up. Let's bring her in, Rick, if you could add
Sure.
Our friend Diane Sare. She is an independent candidate for the United States Senate in the great state of New York. She challenged Chucky Schumer for his Senate seat. And she's not going to stop fighting for the people. Welcome, Diane. It's great to see you. Great to see you face to face. Hello, my friend.
Exactly. Thanks a lot. Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure I have the right audio connected. Okay, great.
Yep, sound good.
Thanks. Great. Wonderful to be here and to see you. And I think you're right. I think there's a lot of excitement building around the rally. I visited a large mosque today in just outside of New York City, where someone I've known for many years is on the board of trustees, and he made the announcement of the rally. There were probably about 600 people there. Everybody took leaflets. He himself is coming to the UN. When I was running for Senate against Schumer, he would always introduce me as saying she stood by us after 9/11, because as people may know, after 9/11, and LaRouche, actually, Lyndon LaRouche put out an incredible press statement called "Shoot the Neighbor's Cat" on September 15th, where he said what the news media is trying to do to people is like the guy who comes home, discovers his house has been robbed, takes out a shotgun, runs next door and blows away the neighbor's cat. And when his wife says, "Honey, that's the neighbor's cat," he said, "I don't care. And if you don't get out of my way, I'm going to shoot you too." And what LaRouche was warning against was a stampeding into war against little nations, which could not possibly have had the capability to carry out what happened on September 11th. And he warned, if you do this, you are going into an era of perpetual war. Whereas you had that incredible gesture of goodwill, actually, from Putin, who was the first head of state to call George Bush after it happened.
That is right.
Right. We're taking down our, whatever the systems are of missiles that are ready. We don't want to trigger something even worse. I mean, a real gesture of goodwill. And here we now are trying to destroy and overthrow Russia. So my friend from this mosque, every time he introduces me, he said, and in New York, what happened, I should just finish that part, is that particularly Pakistani Americans, but Muslims in general, were getting picked up and incarcerated. They were taken off to prison and detention centers, even in the middle of the night. Their families didn't know where they were, and all kinds of Muslim-owned businesses went under. It was a huge witch hunt.
They were targeted.
Exactly.
They were targeted.
And he always says, introducing me, she stood with us after 9/11. And so, of course, then people hearing it from him, who's very respected in the community, are very, very open. And I think what you have going on now in Africa, because the continent is, as Anastasia was just developing, is, in a sense, it's the embodiment of the transformation of the new system. That if we can prevent humanity from completely annihilating itself, this continent, in collaboration with China and Russia, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, could be a paradise. Every nation there could be phenomenally developed. They're clearly going to have high-speed rail before the United States at this rate. And they want to punish them, and they want to stop that. So you have a block of West African countries, and now including even Algeria, warning, because in Niger, there was just a coup against the government, and the U.S. You have to put the president back in. You have to put him back in. And the African nations are saying, no, we don't. No, you don't run us anymore. And I spoke with a young man from Guinea. He thinks that World War III could actually start in Africa. And because the tension is now massive. This is the front of the transformation. So I think people having this sense that it's really either a new era or a dark age and mass death. There is no in between. There's no middle ground. As Lincoln said, a house divided cannot stand. The United States at a certain point could not continue to exist half slavery, and half free. That issue had to be resolved. The world no longer can stand with some nations developed and some being colonial rulers. It's over. It's the end. There's no coexistence between two diametrically opposed systems anymore.
Rick, did you want to pop a question at Diane? I think she's only got a few minutes, so here's your big chance if you have a question for her.
I really don't know where to take it other than, what do you expect to happen tomorrow at this rally? You have a star-studded lineup of anti-war activists who will be speaking. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, tell us who else is speaking. Of course, you're on the bill. We know our friend Scott Ritter is, but who else is joining you tomorrow?
Garland Nixon will be there. Also, Pasta Jardula, who many of us
was just
know.
on the other night with us.
Oh, actually, he's not. He's not going to be able to make it. Just a correction. Yeah, he's not going to be able to make it. He said he was going to try. Yeah, we were so close.
Okay. I'm very happy because we are having the global majority, as I prefer to call them, from the global South represented. There will be a person from the Ghanaian American League for Liberty. So we have a spokesman from Guinea. There is a candidate for president of Haiti speaking. The Libertarian presidential candidate, Mike Termat, is speaking. Aaron Day, is that his name, Anastasia? Republican
Aaron Day.
Party presidential candidate. Anastasia can say more. And it is Sunday, not tomorrow, but Sunday at 1 p.m. And I'm sure I'm missing some people who
Jose Vega.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Oh, Jose. Yeah, he's going to be speaking. Yeah. And Gerald Celente, I saw, was on the bill.
Yes, that's he great. Is. Exactly. No, I think it's very, I don't know what will happen. I've been pleasantly surprised by the people I've been interacting with in the last few days who say they're coming, including a very prominent former city council president in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn area. And as I said, this medical doctor who's the trustee at this mosque. These are people who don't typically come out in the street, which is what indicates to me there may be a shift. Is it big enough? I don't know. This is not the end of this. I mean, obviously, all of us here are going to continue being active until we get this nuclear war danger off the table.
And to
this
me,
this
Diane,
date
this
is important, right? And we haven't mentioned that yet, but you picked this date tomorrow specifically because of, and I'll throw it over to you to just let people know.
It's the day that the United States dropped a nuclear bomb on Hiroshima. It's the only time in human history that we've ever used nuclear weapons, and it was done by the United States. And so this is
not once, but twice.
Twice. And then a few days later on Nagasaki. And at this time, when we are so close to nuclear war, this is the most appropriate time to talk about this, to honor the people who were killed. It wasn't just, I mean, they were obliterated. They literally don't exist. Their bodies were obliterated. I mean, there's horror stories. I mean, I don't know how, on your show, how much I can say, but I've read some of the testimonies of survivors, and it's absolutely horrific. I mean, it's literally like a horror story of, people describing their skin peeling off or, the eyeballs melting. It literally is horrific. And when you think about that, that's what human beings did to other human beings. This isn't a regular war. This is an act of terror. It's an act of terror. And this is never something that we should ever allow to happen, ever. And for us to get to this point right now where we have state officials that are saying we could win a nuclear war, or you have people abroad in NATO countries who are saying we could win a nuclear war, this is absolutely insane. It's completely insane. And the majority of the population, I think, agree with that's insane. And so
I thought all that sort of talk went out after the Cold War, but boy, was I wrong. It's back,
Why
I
do you
thought
guys
we'd
think that
evolved.
there's so much complacency or acceptance of that idea? You know, the idea that there could be even a limited nuclear exchange, that it could, in some way, one side could win a war like that. What has changed?
Drugs. I mean, I'm not really kidding, but do you know the percentage? And I don't just mean weed and heroin and cocaine. I mean, psychiatric meds.
There you
Everybody's
go.
mindset is being managed. It's crazy. People are told you shouldn't be depressed. You know, I can't pay my mortgage, my property tax, my medical bills. My people are saying they can't afford to buy meat anymore and don't see any sign of anything changing. And then we're told that a guy with senile dementia is supposed to be a viable presidential candidate. So, and then what I said, well, you shouldn't be depressed. Well, why not? That's a legitimate feeling. No, take this pill, take that pill. And people are mind numbed. I think that's a big part of it. I hate to say it, but I
No,
think
that's a great point, Diane. I think you're right.
the other
Agreed.
is, I think that they are terrified under the surface. And I was struck by this. I was out in the street yesterday in Manhattan, not far from the UN. We had a little table rally against the war, and this fellow came up, and he was engaged. And then when I told him I was on a Ukrainian kill list, he got really freaked out. And he said, really? How could that happen? And then he was much more connected to the situation. I said, you know, this country is insane. We're sending cluster bombs. They're going to be killing children for decades on the ground in Ukraine. This is and he actually started choking up. And it was so surprising to me because I didn't think that he was so, and he said, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you anymore. I'm crying. And left the area. He did give his information and so on. But I do think, in a sense, we also have to scratch the surface because you're not allowed to think about these things. The media doesn't give you permission. It's not popular. So if you don't have someone telling the truth loudly, you can't actually tell how people really feel because they've covered it all over with this facade. But when you tell the truth, then you discover underneath there's actually enormous fear. And I think people are not sure what to do, who will lead them, who can make themselves heard, who will say what's on their mind. I think that's why it's so very, very important that people have the courage to say the things that really go against the grain.
That is it right there. You just hit it. What you just said. Courage is contagious. And this coalition grew out of what started back in February with the Rage Against the War Machine rally, which brought together everybody, Republicans, libertarians, LaRouche people, socialists, communists, left, right, everybody together fighting back against this war. And it's evolved, and more groups are coming in, and the coalition is getting bigger and bigger. And now it's evolved into Humanity for Peace. And it's true, you know, like when you're at a nightclub and nobody's dancing, and then one guy gets up and he starts dancing. Next thing you know, the dance floor fills up. Everyone says, well, he's dancing. No, I didn't want to look stupid. You know, I didn't want to be the first guy on the dance floor. Right. But then one guy has the courage to get up and look stupid on the dance floor, and then everybody else does too. So it's really the same thing when it comes to activism, especially on topics like war, anything controversial. We saw the same thing happen with the anti mandate rallies, like the Freedom Convoy and others. You know, where people were afraid to come out at first, but then they saw the crowd getting bigger and bigger, and they got off their ass and they got down there. So I think that this is going to continue to grow. And you guys were there at the very beginning, you know, trying to be those first courageous people on the dance floor. And, you know, I have a question, though. I'm kind of wondering if the city of New York might monkey wrench this at the last minute because of the chaos unfolding in Union Square today. I'm almost wondering if they're going to declare a citywide emergency and close all the parks this weekend. What do you think of that? I mean, this is at the UN, right, which is sovereign land. So I don't know if the city of New York could stop it, but it's an interesting legal question. Do you think that'll be an issue?
I've been keeping my eye on it. I saw the riots happening, and we sent it to our security team to keep an eye on it, because not just maybe the city would do something, but this also could be a provocation to try to sabotage us.
I wondered the same thing, Anastasia.
We're wondering, so
Yeah.
we're keeping our eye on it. I'm hopeful that everything will be okay. I think everything will be fine, but this is just so important to screw it up. Like, we can't afford to screw this up.
It's also interesting that YouTube took our main channel down today. I apologize, ladies. I was really hoping for a large audience tonight to try and get the word out about this extremely important rally, and our audience has just been cut by about 3/4 now, thanks to YouTube banning our main channel. So I appreciate you coming on anyway, even though the audience is much smaller tonight than we had hoped. But we live in censorship world.
Yeah, bad, because they've said they've blocked us in Canada on Facebook too,
and
which is where we used to have a huge audience there. So they take away YouTube, they take away Facebook. I don't know. What are the
Well, that's why we have to be in the street. You have to be real. Happily, I can report one of the things we've done in Manhattan in a big way is physical posters. We've had teams of people and leafleting at showings of the Oppenheimer film. So we've gotten thousands of pieces of actual, real, paper into people's hands in the streets. It's very important in a sense.
There is no substitute for face-to-face. That's right.
Right. Exactly. So it doesn't give us a way of exactly predicting who will show up. But just one last thing I want to say, and then I've got to go, because people do know this. I was at a class late one night, and I stopped in a little corner grocery store, and I asked the fellow if I could put a poster up for Humanity for Peace. And he looked to be about 30 years old, maybe Hispanic American. And I said, "Are you here?" He does the night shift, which would be scary in New York, I would think now. So we're talking about the war, and he said, it might be a conspiracy, but one of my friends said there's Nazis in Ukraine.
Oh, what Nazis? I didn't see any Nazis. You seen any Nazis? Nah, I haven't seen any Nazis. There's no Nazis in Ukraine. What are you talking about?
But just think of that, because it's just a total by chance encounter. It's a young guy working at a convenience store. He's not a political activist that I could tell, but he's aware of the situation. So again, getting at what's going on under the surface, what people actually know versus what they're willing to say in public. And he only brought it up because I happened to be there saying that Russia wasn't the cause of this crisis. And then he began actually wanting to talk about what he knew about it.
That's interesting.
I love that. I love that. So tomorrow, this is 1 to 4 p.m. and it's
Sunday.
Sunday.
Sorry, I keep saying tomorrow. It's Sunday.
You really want to be there.
Sorry about that. It's been a long week already. But yeah, it's 1 to 4 p.m. Does it start at the UN at Dash Hammarskjöld Plaza?
Yes.
And the whole event's there. I was wondering if there was a march to the UN, but it's as the whole event.
We don't have a
is
march planned, no. Okay. But we do have a concert planned after at 6 o'clock.
Tell me a little about that.
Actually, Diane, you could probably go through quite a bit. You've been helping to organize some of this.
30 seconds, and then I've got to jump off. The conductor, and this was such a find. I was holding a campaign rally a year ago against the sanctions on Afghanistan and the starvation of children there. And this very distinguished looking gentleman came up to the table and said, "I completely agree with you. This is terrible." He made a donation to my campaign, left his information. I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm a conductor." And I noticed he was performing at Carnegie Hall. He's not a minor conductor. And he happens to be from Turkey. And he organized the Symphonia actually for peace. They do peace concerts of classical music, and he's a world-class director. He's conducted the Turkish National Symphony for example. So I called him for this and said, we really have to stop this war, and we'd like to do the Mozart Requiem. And I don't know if we can even get an orchestra. It's all volunteer. Would you be? And, you know, some people are very snooty and purist. Oh, you could never do it with a piano. You know, they'll say that. So I said, would you mind if it's just with, can we do it with a piano or piano and string quartet? I said, oh, sure. We could do it with a piano. We can do it with a string quartet. But then what happened is he's so well known and so beloved in his own symphony that they wanted to reach out to the musicians that normally play under him. And we're ending up with a full orchestra. I mean, it's sort of a miracle. And we're ending up with professional, super high level soloists. And we've had a few rehearsals. The chorus is about 80 voices from different choruses all over the city, including very significantly a Japanese American chorus, given the day. And in a sense, this really is like a recognition in memory of those people who died in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the fact that we're going to have these Japanese American singers with us, I think is very special. And a Turkish American conductor who Turkey being in the middle of a lot of these negotiations. And the chorus itself probably has people from at least a dozen different nations. I mean, it's like a New York chorus. Everybody's in there, old, young, all different ethnic, religious, national backgrounds. And sounds pretty good.
It's so beautiful. I know that's going to be deeply moving and very powerful. And it's one of those things I've always liked about the Schiller Institute and the LaRouche movement is throughout your entire history, there's always been an element of music, specifically classical music, in the activism that you do, because you understand the emotional power of music to touch people's hearts. And I love that you're doing Mozart's Requiem. It's a perfect piece of music for this event. So what a cool idea. How creative. That's awesome.
Great. Well, thanks. I'm going to get going.
Thanks for joining us.
Interviewing the conductor on my program tonight, which is what I'm about to get ready for.
Wonderful. I will tune in and watch that for sure later.
All right. See you all.
Thanks for joining
us. Very nice
to meet you.
Sunday.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.
See ya. That's great. You know, we do have another special surprise guest that I'm working on. So I'm going to let Rick and Anastasia take it for a little while, and I'm going to check in with our other surprise guest to see if they can make it into the studio tonight. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Sunday at what time?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. And do you guys have a like a live stream set up or anything like that? Tell us how people can watch if they can't get there.
So the live stream you can find at our website, humanityforpeace.net. But I also want to send out the invitation that we have a link for people who want, if they would like to share the live stream of this event on your own platform, we are happy to share this with you. So whoever out there, if you would like to live stream this special UN event and concert, we'll have the concert also streamed as well at 6, then please reach out to us. We would love to share that with you.
Okay. And tell me about the different speakers again. You have Scott Ritter.
We've got Scott Ritter, Gerald Celente. We have Reverend Terri Strong. We've got Garland Nixon. We have the Republican, he calls himself the anti-war Republican candidate. His name is Aaron Day. Mike Termott, who I've had the pleasure to get to know. He's a very feisty libertarian presidential candidate. Jude Ellie, who's a Haitian presidential candidate. Very important given what the United States has done to Haiti.
Yes.
We have the national director of a very important Muslim organization. His name is, I'm sorry, I don't have the press release right in front of me, but his name is Muhammad. He'll also be there. And we'll have Jose Vega and a few other people. I'll pull up all of the speakers here in a second, but Jose Vega will also be there And, we really want to give people a sense of just, what the potential is right now. I think people feel really isolated.
Humanityforpeace.net. I'll bring up the website so people can see it on the screen. There it is. Let me just share that on the screen for folks. So it's humanityforpeace.net.
Yes. There we go.
There it is. And there's a video screen, so you'll be streaming it there, I guess.
This is actually a short promo video that we've been producing. It's been ongoing. We've been gathering short video clips from endorsements of different people from around the world.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Can we take a quick look at that?
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is Jimmy from Lighthouse Germany, Media Evolution Movement. Every war begins with a lie. To end the wars, we need to stop the lies. The independence of journalism is the key to peace and truth. And the family of mankind has to stand up for peace and truth. We need to form an alliance, such as humanityforpeace.net. Join us on humanityforpeace.net. We will organize worldwide actions and rallies on the 6th of August, the day of Hiroshima. We want to raise our voices worldwide in every country, in every nation of the world, to raise our voices against war and nuclear escalation. Join us on humanityforpeace.net. We have only one planet, and we will stand up for it.
I'm Senator Dick Black, retired. I'm a retired colonel also. I was wounded in fierce fighting with the 1st Marine Division in Vietnam. I'm worried about the reckless and heartless foreign policy this nation is following. I encourage you to attend the Humanity for Peace rally in Manhattan, New York on August the 6th from 1 to 4 p.m. At this moment, no other nation on earth has become more warlike, more aggressive, or militaristic than our own. We've launched unprovoked wars against Serbia, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and Yemen. They did nothing to hurt us, yet we sent troops across the globe and killed millions of them. In 2014, we overthrew the government of Ukraine and installed a puppet regime of our own. Then 2 months after the war started, we blocked peace talks that had almost ended the war with very minimum bloodshed. We pushed Ukraine into a hopeless war that's turning them into a nation of widows and orphans. We're imposing a one world government through brutal force. Who profits? The global oligarchs, the kings, the princes, celebrities, bankers, media moguls, and the sons of influential politicians. They all gather at secretive conferences, places like Davos, Switzerland, to decide just how to enrich themselves at the expense of the voiceless mass of humanity. But we've had enough of this. If you'd like to strike back, join the peace demonstration at the United Nations Plaza on August the 6th. With your help, we can turn this around. So do it for the cause of peace and for the future of humanity.
Let's pause it right there on that.
We are the people who...
Because, I mean, I don't know if you know Colonel Richard Black, but, I mean, this is an amazing, amazing man who he traveled to Syria as a state senator of Virginia to find out what was really going on and met with the government. And this is a man, like he described, he's a former Marine who was a colonel, and he's literally seen war. He's been in war. He's had to do, you know, the duty of for his country, and he's been through it. And the fact that he's coming out and standing for this is so important. It's like Scott Ritter, similarly, he always says, I used to brag about, we got to kill those commies. We got to do this and that. But you have people like that who are now coming out saying, we have to stop this. We have to stop this nuclear war that's coming out right now. I think that's just so important.
And in your estimation, how close are we?
I think we're a few milliseconds to midnight, to be honest, given the tensions that we're seeing right now in the world and the fact that we don't have any leaders in the West who are sane enough to stop it like a John F. Kennedy did, who's thoughtful and caring enough to do it. We don't have that right now, which is why we're saying that.
We just got a lot closer to midnight, folks. I have some breaking news. Just about an hour ago, there was yet another explosion at the Kerch Bridge to Crimea, the same bridge that they attacked just a couple of weeks ago and have attacked numerous times. In fact, the special surprise guest that I was hoping to bring in tonight, our friend Scott Ritter, who's an expert on Russia, I do believe he is now swamped with interview requests with this breaking news, so I don't know if Scott's going to be able to join us or not. But real quick, I wanted to show you that over in Ukraine, big celebrations going on about the now the third bombing of the Kerch Bridge. Rick, if you can add my screen,
yep.
Let me show you what's happening in Ukraine right now as we speak. This is pretty disturbing.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, party time in Ukraine. Party time. Could you guys see and hear that okay?
Yeah, I saw the
internet's been
insanity.
wonky. Hopefully that came through loud and clear. It's pretty
just
crazy.
it's
And,
mass. It's a mass
these escalations.
insanity. Mass formation psychosis.
And it brings us closer and closer to that doomsday clock that's ticking. I mean, how much is Russia expected to put up with? And now we see this escalation and ramping up of attacks inside Russia, drone strikes on Moscow. That not a week goes by now, folks, that there aren't attacks inside Russia proper. Right.
Do you remember when the weapons were sent there, they were conditional upon not using them like inside Russian territory, and now drone strikes, bridges blowing up, and it doesn't seem to matter anymore. It's just more escalation.
Is it any wonder they've, broken off our negotiations on these nuclear treaties, on the inspections, because they don't trust us? And stuff like this is why we gave our word that our weapons would not be used inside Russia, but they are. And our word just doesn't seem to be good for anything. I don't blame the Russians for not trusting us.
And to sit back and pretend it's like, oh, it's not us. We're just providing weapons. It's the Ukrainians that are no, it's us.
It's us.
We're absolutely involved. You can't give someone a gun and facilitate violence and not take some responsibility for that. We're a party to it.
I need to check in with our man in Crimea, our correspondent there, Kevin Mikulitsi, to make sure he and his family are okay. Mm-hmm. They're getting hit on the regular now in Crimea. It's obvious that Crimea is now a target, and Ukraine and NATO intend to try and take Crimea. And of course, there was an attack on a ship in the Black Sea this morning. I don't know if you guys saw that, but they had to tow a large Russian ship that was severely damaged by some sort of water based drone that apparently went into the side of the ship. So it's just every day now, guys. Every day.
Yeah, and if Russia is backed into a corner where they're losing or feel that they can't win using conventional weapons, that's when things get really, really dicey. And there's no way Russia is going to stand down. They will not allow. They can't afford to lose the war.
Well,
So
they're not going to lose the war. I think
right.
it's insane that anybody thinks that Ukraine can win this, and it's insane that, because basically all this means is the only way that this would ever win is if we went to nuclear war. That's the only way that this could end up in a quote unquote win for them, and that would just mean the end of humanity. Who actually wins in that? Nobody wins in that. And I actually really believe that Russia knows that the United States, the people of the United States, don't want this. I actually believe that they think that. We used to have close ties with Russia. They defended us during the American Revolution. They defended us against the British, who were trying to come in during the Civil War with battleships, and they would cut them off. They sent their own navy to protect America, to protect the United States from the British coming in, trying to screw everything up and get involved in that. They were very clear about this. And we worked with them during World War II. We were collaborators. We were, joint men in arms fighting against fascism.
Right.
So what could have possibly happened between this short period of time that all of a sudden they become the enemies of the world?
Again.
Putin's the next Hitler. I mean, I've seen headlines like this.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Every day.
Yeah.
They call him Pootler. They love to call him Pootler, right?
Which they find personally offensive, by the way, because
could you imagine being Russian and being compared to the Nazis? How angry that would make you, how deeply that cuts to a Russian.
Yeah. I mean, they won that war and they lost millions of people. Probably some that we don't even realize,
Well, to this day, many of the dead from World War II in Russia are still unidentified. They're still counting and finding remains. Around the time the Cold War ended, the official death toll in Russia from World War II was around 20 million. It has since gone up over the years to 25 million as they find and identify more remains. Then 27 million, I believe, is the current count. But it's impossible to say. I've heard estimates as high as 30 million people who died in that country in World War II. And that's not even factoring in nuclear weapons. That's just conventional warfare. So imagine the death toll if nuclear weapons start being used. It's incalculable.
And I think people need to realize that if it goes nuclear, it's coming here.
You better believe it. Don't think it can't happen here. Americans, we've always had this sort of tunnel vision that because we're surrounded by these two oceans and we have such a strong military that nobody would ever dare to try and hurt us. But believe me, they can and they will. And if we keep making enemies the way that we are now, there's no guarantees, folks. The United States and Canada. Whatever happens here is going to affect Canadians as well. That nuclear radiation, that travels. And if they strike us, especially if they strike us on the East Coast or up north, Canadians are going to get hurt.
We have we have the warning systems in place in the north. They'll probably take those out. We have industrial capacity, especially in southern Ontario, right along the border. We have other infrastructure that's key as well in other parts of the country. A lot of it right along the U.S.-Canada border. So these larger cities, don't think that we're not targeted here too, folks. We're in jeopardy here.
And remember, there's conventional warfare also. I mean, what's happening with the Kerch Bridge? That could be the Golden Gate Bridge. That could be the Tappan Zee Bridge going into New York. That could be any major bridge in the United States or Canada. It could be the Ambassador Bridge between Detroit and Ontario. All of these key points of infrastructure are military targets.
And let's face it, I mean, if now that we're seeing this war being taken straight to Russia on Russian soil, it's like game on. For the Russians, I don't see where they have a whole lot to lose by expanding the war in other ways on other fronts, because the United States is clearly directly engaged in this. So at what point do they stop pulling punches? I don't think we're far from that.
We're really pushing our luck at this point. We really are. And that's why this rally is so important this weekend. That's why I'm raising hell about it. That's why I've been talking about it for 2 weeks straight here on Maverick News. I really want people to understand that this is our hour of maximum danger.
Yeah, I really thank you both for doing that. I really thank you, Lori, for doing that, because, you know, it's not even, it's really not a matter, I think, of people agreeing or not with us. I think most people do. But because of this media censorship, right, people can't hear about what's going on. They can't hear about what's really happening or what to do. So like Diane, what she was talking about, you know, the need to inspire courage in people. Like that's really the key here, is we have to inspire courage, not just here in the United States, but all over the world, that we're not going to accept this. And, you know, I think what we're doing with this rally, we're actually combining as many media sources as possible. Maybe you've seen what we've done working with No to NATO in the UK. Yeah, like George Galloway, you know, all these different media outlets, they've been broadcasting over all of their platforms at the same time. And so we started working with them, and we're broadcasting on all of our platforms, and we're spreading this out like this. So that first one that I did with them, that had over 500,000 views across all the platforms. We just did one that was with Rage Against the War Machine, Schiller, and No to NATO. I have no idea what that's going to look like. If the other one was 500,000, what is this going to be? So imagine if we were to do that with this UN rally, where we connect all of these media outlets and we supersede over the censorship like this, where we can actually get to the people what's really going on. You know, then people can actually see that they're not alone. They're not crazy. Sometimes when you talk to people, they think they're like, am I the only one that thinks we're about to go into nuclear war? Why are people, you know, watching, you know, Britney Spears? Or why are people, you know, going to Taylor Swift, or, you know, why are they rioting over, you know, not having whatever giveaway they had in the middle of New York? I mean, it just, right. I mean, it's like,
give them bread and circuses and they will never revolt.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.